I'm used to giving long speeches. This is going to be a tiny speech, and it's going to be more interactive. And this speech, I was in and out yesterday, and a lot of people said, you know, Michael, what you have to include in this presentation is this. And then somebody else said, well, what you really need to include in this presentation is that. So I'm going to be sifting through as we go along and trying to remember the various suggestions. If you're wondering why this guy's voice sounds so kind of scratchy, it's because I'm I was motivated by Phil Zimbardo's invitation to come here. I had and have laryngeal cancer, and when he invited me to come here was kind of halfway into a 6-month period where I didn't have any voice, zero. And that invitation provided the inspiration and motivation for me to engage a voice therapy coach with whom I meet 2 and 3 times a week. And he helps me find if this register is blocked, which it clearly is, I'll find another. I'm not going to be singing Pavarotti style for you, but he'll help me I can find other registers and pitches where I can be heard more clearly. So this is, thank you. I want to start off with a little exercise because this has been red hot serious for the past 2 days and in the buildup. And this is going to be interactive. It'll only take 90 seconds. And it's actually, I've had a lot of experience with financial services companies. I'm definitely going to start with you. I've had a lot of experience with financial services companies. So how people earn money is always of interest to me as it is you. So I want you all to be thinking about a way that someone could, I apologize for the voice, earn an extra $5 over the next 7 days. Keep it legal, keep it moral. We'll start with you. Just call it out. What could somebody possibly do to earn an extra $5? It doesn't have to, not that you know how to. Pardon? Smile more often? Okay, smile more often. How about you?
Poop or scoop.
Poop or scoop. How about you?
Clean someone's house.
Clean someone's house. Okay, time out. That was $5. Now, $5,000. What could somebody, not that you know how to do it, but what could somebody possibly do to earn an extra $5,000? Sir, over the next 7 days.
Make a great business deal.
Do a great business deal. How about you?
I'll write an article.
You'd write an article. Yeah, I heard you transacting business last night in the hotel. And how about you, sir?
I would offer some consulting.
Pardon me? Consulting. Okay, time out. Last question. So we went from $5 to $5,000. Now we're going to $5 million. What could you do? Not that you know how to. Yes, you. What?
Sign a deal with an NFL team.
Sign a deal with an NFL team. Good. What else? What could you do? Sure you do. You don't have to know how to do it, but what could somebody possibly do? $5 million.
Invest in a really good stock.
Invest in a red hot stock. And you, ma'am.
Sell organs.
Ooh. Now that hurts. But you could sell your organs. Now, question. Were your ideas about earning $5 any less creative or less imaginative than your ideas about $5 million? Any less creativity or imagination applied? No, they were just as creative and just as and just as powerful. But how many of you thought of the same ideas for $5 as you did for $5 million? Zero. You want to know why? The chances that you will think of a $5 million idea when your focus is on $5, zero. It's not going to happen. Why? Because your brain is too busy. I mean, you guys were nervous. Oh, God, and prayerful. Please don't let him pick on me. I don't know what the... But you guys were very busy filling up to the max with creative, imaginative ideas about how to earn $5, $5,000, or $5 million. So you have no chance at all of getting a $5 million idea. Zero if your focus is on $5. Zero. Now, the reason I'm starting with this is I heard a lot yesterday at the end of the session. What's the big... You know, I was on a movie line. Phil can relate to this. I was on a movie line in Thousand Oaks a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to incorporate this incident. So somebody cut in front of me. And I'm a little guy. The guy was like a foot taller than me. Of course, I was with my girlfriend at the time, so I had to try to be brave. Honey, you take it. No. At any rate, here's what I did. I said, hey, what's the big idea? That's your challenge in this conference. You've been here for 2 days. And you're going to hear a lot of ideas, and you're going to make a lot of promises, and you're going to hear people making a lot of promises. You have to sit through all that stuff and try to come up with the idea that nobody else has come up with that can transform. I loved hearing that word because when I started out in business, my title for Lockheed Corporation was Chief Transformation Officer. I reported to the president of Lockheed Corporation, and that was my title. And everybody here was talking about transformation. And let me tell you, when I started at Lockheed, cuneiform was the method of communication. It was a long time ago. So this is my... now I'll see if something happens. No. Oh, is that right? You see, from the Stone Age. Man, this is not going to happen. Oh, I'm going backwards. You guys are so street smart, and I'm so street stupid in this thing. So, thank you. So here's what I want to talk about for 10 minutes. I want to talk about whistleblowing. I started up, had we had this conversation 10 years ago, I would have been introduced as Motorola's ambassador of change. Because what I did my whole life was I was the global head of strategy for 5 Fortune 50 companies. I was in the C-suite. So, of course, I would never think of whistleblowing because whereas most whistleblowers are middle managers with like a $50,000 income to lose, mine was many millions of dollars each year. So I would never think of whistleblowing. And I wouldn't join a company that would do things so corrupt that I would have to blow the whistle. Or so I thought. Okay, so let's see if I can get this going. Yes. Okay, I've already told you to bear with my voice. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Countrywide, a little bit, but I'm going to be talking about a lot of the things that you guys were wrestling with was what does it feel like to blow the whistle? What goes on through your head? Now, I'll give you sort of the prevaricating variables. 9 people, I'm not from California, 9 people who were from my motor. So, in a nutshell, all I've done is what I did sort of at the end of Countrywide. It's called an executive officer. I started out at Lockheed, held a very high-level top-secret clearance. I know there was somebody in the audience yesterday who was from the military and obviously had seen a lot of combat. Well, I worked for Lockheed for 5 years. I joined Lockheed having started with a very blue-chip strategy consulting company called McKinsey & Company. But Ronald Reagan had just gotten in office, 1980, and he was talking about the SDI. Most of you weren't born when the SDI was, it means the Strategic Defense Initiative. And I thought, I can help these guys. So I joined Lockheed. I had to get a top secret clearance with special intelligence access. I stayed there for 5 years. I ran their global strategy. I was then promoted. I don't know how you get promoted from reporting to the president of the company, but I was promoted to reporting to, I joined McDonnell Douglas. I stayed there 4.5 years, and I worked for Sandy McDonnell. And yes, that's not a coincidental same last name. His father founded McDonnell Douglas. I stayed there 4 years. I was then recruited. There's a point to all this. I was then recruited. I had taken my PhD in psychology and studied and admired like crazy. This is really, dinosaurs were walking the earth during this. When I was in graduate school, studied that gentleman and thought, oh, I gotta meet him one day. He's changing the game. He's got such great concepts. I was a young sprite then. Now, it's obvious I'm not. But and having braved so many winters getting my PhD in Illinois, and you don't know cold until you've been in Illinois during the winter. Having braved, there was no way I was going to go back to a job in Illinois. But Motorola knocked on the door, and they were not the Motorola that they ended up being. They were really struggling. They were about $3.8 billion, and they really wanted me. And so I had a wife and child at the time. And so I begged them to let me do this. And we took a company that was broken and we fixed it. We took a company that by the time I joined was $4 billion and change, and transformed it to a company when I left that was $37.8 billion. It was a really big powerhouse. Those of you who know the razor, those of you who know the clamshell, those of you who know the brick, the original. I was there before there were any cell phones. So it was quite a journey. Now I still have forgotten. Okay, so I'm walking you through this. I want to show you this briefly. So it's not a back-patting thing. I want to show you these things, and I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I had a great career. So why would I blow the whistle on my company? I would never have blown the whistle on the first 4 companies because they were quality-oriented, customer-focused, high-integrity companies. Why would I blow the whistle and perhaps sacrifice my entire career on a company called Countrywide Financial? And I thought about it for a while, about 15 seconds. But I really thought about it all the way up. I thought there's something wrong with this company. And what is also wrong is that everybody sees what I see. I mean, my office was permanently where all the C-suiters were, but everybody sees what I see. Why aren't they saying anything? Stevie Wonder could see that they were defrauding massively. And I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. So there was a build-up. I'm going to tell you 3 short vignettes. The build-up to, you don't need to know any of this stuff. We can, if you really want these slides, we can find a way to give them to you. Okay. So here are the stories. Early, my first 5 months in the company, I pull up to the Countrywide parking lot. I get out of the car, and I go past a car that I think was a Jaguar. Shiny, sleek, European, and the guy shut the door, and I saw his license plate. You can see this, by the way, on a movie called Untouchables. I looked at his license plate. His license plate said, Fundum. Now, if you passed a car with a license plate that said Fundum, and there was the driver, wouldn't you stop and say, that's kind of an unusual thing. What does that mean? Well, that's what I said. I said, what are you talking about? Fund what? And he said, oh, that's Angelo Mazzillo's growth strategy for 2006. Fundum? What does that mean? He said, it means just what you think it means. We'll fund all loan requests. And I said, I know there's a... And I said, you fund all loan requests? He said, yeah. I said, what if the person has no job? Fund him. What if he has no income? Fund him. What if he has no assets? Fund him. Sorry, I don't understand. I'm new here. What criteria do you use to determine who gets a loan and who doesn't get a loan? And the guy took a step back, like, oh, this guy must be new or stupid. And he said, if they have a pulse, we'll give them a loan. And I said, that can't be. Because I read all the promos about your company, and it says that all of your stuff is AAA rated by Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's. It can't be AAA rated if you're giving loans to people who are not creditworthy. And here's where it's gonna jump fast forward quickly. I apologize. And he said, well, that's the policy. That's what we do. So I knew that couldn't work. I had come from Motorola. Motorola was quality obsessed, and they were customer focused. They wanted total customer satisfaction. And if you've ever heard the phrase Six Sigma, that was invented at Motorola, and Bill Smith, who was a friend of mine, or he was before he passed away, was the inventor of Six Sigma. Six Sigma means 4 defects, 4 mistakes per million. A million is a lot of chances. So it's a statistical derivation where you count every process, not just making chips, not just selling cell phones, not just coming up with new patents. Everything, customer service, training, meetings like this. Six Sigma means 4 defects. That's it. It's the nearest algorithm to perfection in the world. So I started roaming the hallways in Countrywide to say, God, I see you're rewarding people for selling a lot of loans. Why don't you reward them for selling good loans, the loans that won't fail? And what I didn't realize was that was starting to make me a little bit of a pariah in the place. So I'm going to go to the second story and keep this pretty quick. There was a toxic incident in a building that housed 1,100 people. The company was working overtime to keep it swept under the mat so that nobody knew, but people knew. People were writing me, I was the executive officer in the building, letters. Hey, I'm 31 weeks pregnant. I don't want to lose my child because of the toxicity. You could see billowing clouds of smoke. And every time I asked building manager, head of facilities, the president, the chairman, what's the status on mitigation efforts? They said, Michael, don't make trouble. We're going to take care of it. But no action was taken to take care of it. So I said, I'm going to ask you again in a week. And if I don't see any action, I'm going to have to call Cal OSHA because there are 1,100 people in this building. I don't want any of them dying or getting cancer because there's toxicity in the building. Well, there was no action taken. So I called Cal OSHA. You've never experienced retaliation until you blow the whistle on a company that, number one, what I skipped was I had called the SEC. I had called the Justice Department. I was so desperate to get help in their predatory lending that I even called the district attorney. And I said, somebody's got to stop. These guys are floating loans that are going to all fail. They're pushing these exotic packages, these exotic investments that are going to, and they're pushing them to the most vulnerable people. At any rate, when I called Cal OSHA, I knew I was going to lose my career. And I want you to stop and think about it, because most of you guys are very young in your 30s, and I think these shoes are older than you are. But I had worked consistently for 34 years. I had all the credits from the prior slides on there. I used to teach at Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, INSEAD, Tsinghua, Management Center Management Center Europe. I taught actually for 17 years. This is concurrent with my corporate stuff. For 17 years, I taught at a place called Stichting de Bach, which is on the North Sea in Noordwijk, Holland. 17 years, 6 weeks a year. So by blowing the whistle, I was going to say goodbye to all that. Why would somebody blow the whistle when they have that much to lose? I'll tell you what went through my mind. If I don't blow the whistle, the people in this building could be dead, or the people investing with Countrywide could lose all their money. And it turned out, you guys read the papers, you know, well, maybe you don't. There was on page 1 of the Wall Street Journal, of the New York Times, there was an article by 3-time Pulitzer Prize winner Gretchen Morgenson. And the article was entitled, How a Whistleblower Conquered Countrywide. I'm that whistleblower. Thank you. And how do you do it and why do you do it? I'll be done in 2 minutes, guys. How do you do it and why do you do it? Because you see, there's a bigger pain that's going to happen. If I lost my career, it was just me losing my career and likely my team. If I didn't notify the SEC, there were tens of millions of people that could lose everything. This was the worst form of financial terrorism I had ever seen. And it was financial and it was terrorism. And I was going to do my best to slow it, stop it, end it. And still today, my goal is to rid the world of companies that push innocence into fraudulent deals. God, do I wish I had more time. Thank you so much.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.